Good morning, everyone. Nicole, I just want to make sure that I'm not sure who's on the finance committee anymore. Can you tell me if we have enough to proceed?
Yes, sir. The finance committee consists of you, Kevin Anderson, who is present. I believe Dr. Kyle Miller is on, and Chair Brodell can serve on the finance committee as well. And one more person. So we do have enough to go ahead and start the finance committee.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. I appreciate that. I just want to
And
make sure. I just wanted Al to know that he's going to have to second a lot of stuff here.
and Mr. Alan Boone is also on the finance committee.
Oh, okay. Well, good. I'm glad that I know that. Okay, well, so we'll get the finance committee started, and the first agenda item of the finance committee is agenda item number 14, and that's on page 14.1 of the agenda book. And Mr. Fuller is going to provide background for this item, certification of intercollegiate athletic budget. And Mr. Fuller, will you proceed, please?
Yes, sir. Good morning. And this is the certification of intercollegiate athletic budgets, the expenditures and revenues expected for fiscal year 2021-2022, year that just started the beginning of this month. And code requires that each institution certify to the coordinating board by June 15th of each year the budget for their athletic programs, and that they will have sufficient revenues to support those budgets each year for the coming year. As we've spoke prior times, at the next coordinating board meeting, you'll see the expenditures and revenues from the prior year that match up to these budgets. The first item on the presentation is the list of the athletic fees. You can see what the fees were for the prior fiscal year for 2021 and what the new proposed projected fees are going to be for each institution that charges a fee. The ones highlighted in red have increased from the prior year. On the next chart, you'll see it's broken down. The first chart, I had to break it down into two different ones so to make it a little easier to see. Shows the expected revenues for each institution and the budget for each of them for their athletics. This is for the 4-year institutions. The second slide will be for 2-year institutions, as well as the University of Arkansas. And included in this report, I've also requested from each institution a breakdown of what consists of their auxiliary profits. I know we've had questions about that in the past, so I wanted to include what makes up each institution's auxiliary profits that they plan to spend for the year.
I appreciate that.
Sure. And with that, I'll be open to any questions you might have on that.
Any questions, Mr. Ford? I don't see that there's a whole lot of change in the way this has been done to you, Nick.
No, sir.
Okay. I think, just for the new board members, we might just touch on some of the sensitive areas here just for a second, if I may. If you look at this budget, you'll see it when you see the actual year at the next meeting. Several of these universities use a number of funds other than athletic generated revenue to maintain their athletic programs. And sometimes that becomes a source of consternation with some of the board. And the only thing I'm going to say today is I would like to ask each institution to try to minimize that as much and make it as affordable as they can. Any questions for Mr. Cole or anybody? If not, I'd entertain a motion to recommend to the full board the approval of the review of the certification of intercollegiate athletic budget.
Greg, I do have a question before we get
Okay.
on. I ask this question every year just simply because my memory doesn't last that long. That percentage of the money that they can use, that is capped. Is that correct? Outside of the budget?
Yes,
They
sir.
can pull
E&G.
from E and G?
Yes, sir. It
Can
is
you
capped.
remind me of what that cap is? What is that percentage?
Oh, give me 1 second. I apologize.
It's like 2%.
That's what I thought it was. I thought it was 2 or 2.5%, somewhere in there.
Somewhere right around
And virtually every year, I think most institutions take out that max except for just 1 or 2 maybe. Is that correct?
Yes, it is 2% of the actual unrestricted E&G revenues, or an amount that's set by the Division of Higher Ed, and we have a set dollar amount that is a cap. But if their 2% is higher than that, then they are allowed to go up to that full 2%.
And so
there.
just,
Well, that's why you see some of those numbers the same.
Right.
Because they're at our cap.
Yeah, if you look, there are a few that are at the 1,410,887, and a couple of the smaller ones are at the 1,391,407. Those are the caps set by DHE.
and so every year I ask that question, and I'd like to just echo what Greg just said. Anything that we can do to minimize that effect and keep that affordable, I appreciate Greg saying that. And with that, I'll make the motion,
Okay, do I have a
unless there's
second?
any other discussion.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all that approve of this signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. I think we approved that, Nick, so we'll move on to agenda item 14B, the economic feasibility of the loan for the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville, and that begins on page 14B1 of the agenda. Mr. Fuller.
Sir, thank you. This item is going to be a request from the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville for the feasibility plans for a loan with an amount not to exceed $13 million with a term of 10 years at a rate not to exceed 4%. The revenues, this will be for educational and general purposes and auxiliary purposes. The breakdown of 9.7 for educational and general and 3.3 of auxiliary purposes. The revenues of this will come from tuition and fees and auxiliary revenue, and proceeds will be used to fund an energy savings performance project on the campus. And representatives from the institution should be available if there are any questions.
Nick, my question is, how can we vote on this if we don't have the relevant information so we know if this meets the requirements for us to approve? As far as how much they've got left in their percentage of funds they have.
Yes, sir.
With that information missing from my book anyway.
1 second here, let me.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. At the time of printing of the book, we did not have that information. We were trying to prevent from needing to request a special board meeting by adding it to this agenda. Let me see if I can get that information for you.
And it has been added to the agenda on the website. It is in the book on the website.
Okay.
I'm gonna try and pull it up quickly if I can.
So you've done it and it qualifies for that in all aspects.
Yes, sir.
Greg, I'm no longer a member of this committee, but can I ask a question of the
You sure can.
speaker?
Nick, I should know the answer to this too, but on a loan like this, do the schools put these loans up for bid?
Yes, sir, I do believe they.
Are they
They
required
put
to, are they required to do that, I hope?
Yes, sir, and I believe that is the issue is that they don't have a bank selected yet. They're
Okay,
from who they're going with. They're getting this approval. Their board approved this in March. And they were looking at the bid for this. Nicole, if you want, I can share my screen to see the full information.
Okay.
If it'll allow me. Okay, this would be the full information that was missing from the printed agenda book.
Okay,
If you want to take a second or two, you can review that. And it does show that they do have sufficient revenues to support.
okay. I'm good with that. Anybody else got any questions about that for Mr. Ford?
Is there anybody from I'm sorry, this is Al. Is there anybody from the institution that can go into any detail at all about the energy conservation measures? I'm starting to read some of it here on this that was on the website, but I did not have that in my book either.
Anybody from the University of Arkansas on?
This is Terry Martin. I am here, but I'm not familiar with the finance of this piece. So I'm not sure if there's anyone from our finance people here on this call. I was not aware this one was being added at the slate date. So I can certainly get you some information.
I noted there in the third paragraph of what Nick's put up, as required, these improvements will generate annual savings guaranteed by the ESCO, which will exceed the total project cost of construction. And I'm wondering if there's a timeline on when that exceeds the total cost.
I do not
I love seeing that line in there. I was just wondering what that ROI is. How long does it take to return that total cost?
I do not have that answer, but I can get it for you.
We should be able to find that information more than likely before the meeting is over.
Wonderful.
Okay. Any other questions? If there aren't any other questions, I'd entertain a motion that we recommend to the full board the approval of this economic feasibility for this loan.
This is Kevin Anderson. I move to approve.
Thank you.
This is Al, I second.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Any other questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's all the business of the Finance Committee. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? I know we don't want to stay in session, so somebody's gonna second that, right? All right, good. All right, we have a motion to second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 And we are adjourned, Mr. Chairman. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Revels. I appreciate y'all's work on that committee. I know that was a shortened agenda.